free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello, and welcome to Same Crime, Different Time. I'm Jennifer Chambers. You know that I'm passionate about uncovering the truth. Here, we're taking that passion to the dark heart of the Pacific Northwest. As a true crime and historical writer, I've spent years immersed in the chilling archives of this region. Each week, we'll explore cases, both ancient and modern, of murder, unexplained events, strange places, and those who have simply vanished. We'll dig into the research, connecting the dots between past and present, revealing the threads of mystery that weave through our incredible, yet often unsettling, landscape. Prepare to be captivated as we discover that while times may change, the darkest aspects of human nature remain hauntingly the same. Hey y'all, this is an older episode that has been an encore about Mary Morrissey. It's super interesting, and it's the end of my summer, so I'm trying to take it a little bit easy, but you may not have heard this one before, so give it a listen. Thanks for being with me, and I'll see you again next week. Hello, and welcome to the Same Crime, Different Time podcast, where we explore true crime, spooky, and bizarre things from the Pacific Northwest. I'm your host, Jen Chambers, and today we're going to be discussing Mary Morrissey and the Living Enrichment Center in Wilsonville, Oregon. Was it a cult? And did its sister facility harbor visitors of a supernatural kind? Mary Morrissey is a renowned spiritual leader, best-selling author, and founder of the Life Mastery Institute. She has dedicated her life to helping people achieve their dreams and live their best lives, according to her website. Morrissey's teaching are centered around the power of the mind and the importance of living in alignment with one's highest values. One of the most significant achievements in Morrissey's career was the founding of the Living Enrichment Center in Wilsonville, Oregon. The center was established in 1992, and it quickly became a hub of spiritual activity in the Pacific Northwest. Morrissey's teachings attracted thousands of people to the center, and it grew into a thriving community of like-minded individuals. The Living Enrichment Center, LEC, was a New Thought organization and retreat center founded in the mid-1970s by senior minister Mary Morrissey in the farmhouse of her home in Shoals. The congregation grew from less than a dozen to an estimated 4,000, over time becoming the largest New Thought church in the state. In 1992, the church then moved to the 94,000 square foot building on a 95-acre forested area in Wilsonville. The LEC maintained an in-house bookstore, a retreat center, a cafe, a kindergarten, an elementary school, and an outreach television ministry. However, the center closed in 2004 following a $10.7 million financial scandal. Edward Morrissey, Mary Morrissey's husband, pleaded guilty to money laundering and using church funds for personal expenses, resulting in a 2-year federal prison sentence. The LEC dissolved in 2004, and several ministries emerged from its dissolution, including the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, the Celebration Church, and the Whole Life Center in Lake Oswego. So the origins of this Living Enrichment Center are traced back to the Truth Center that Mary Morrissey and her first husband started in their living room in 1974. But after that church proved unsuccessful, and before they moved, Morrissey and her husband began offering workshops on building self-esteem in churches across the country. In 1979, she founded a new church, Building Self-Esteem, and centered it in the Oddfellows Hall in Beaverton, Oregon, which she named the Living Enrichment Center, and it was based on their aim to enrich people's lives. So, by the time they moved to the former Callahan Center in Wilsonville, they had a large building and several cabins that were used for the spiritual retreats. They had a sister organization that was called the Dammasch State Retreat Center. By 1997, the church actively sought to expand its congregation. So they included advertising, outreach programs, and a Portland Sunday TV message every week. This all sounds pretty up and up. They offered a wide range of programs and services designed to help people achieve their personal and spiritual growth of their brand. Some of their most popular programs included workshops that were on meditation, self-discovery, personal empowerment. They also offered one-on-one coaching and counseling. But their success was not without controversy. In 2003, they came under fire for alleged financial improprieties. Like I mentioned at the top, according to a report by the Oregon Department of Justice, they'd been misusing funds and misleading its members almost since its inception. It also alleged that Morrissey had used the center's funds for personal expenses, including purchasing luxury cars and homes in Hawaii. That has not been proven as of yet, but the allegations included the amount of misused funds of over $10.7 million. They borrowed heavily. They financed the building expansion, and they weren't exactly transparent about its finances. They misled their members about its financial status by continuing to gain money from their members. Members were told to donate large sums of money again and again to help the center stay afloat, but nobody was told about the financial troubles or why they were happening. The investigation by the Department of Justice also saw that Morrissey had gotten substantial personal benefits from the center, including luxury cars and homes. The report stated that her personal expenses were paid for and had provided her with a quote-unquote lavish lifestyle. In response to this, Morrissey acknowledged that, the center had made mistakes and she took responsibility for its financial difficulties. But she also stated that she had repaid the center for its personal expenses. Whether or not that was true, she continued to inspire and motivate her followers. In 2008, she then founded the Life Mastery Institute, which continues to offer coaching and training programs based on her teachings. A thread on Reddit that was titled Living Enrichment Center details the hauntings and the paranormal activities that appear to take place in the facility and its surroundings. The area next to the center once housed the Dammasch State Mental Hospital. One person who called themselves Eifendel recalled visiting the abandoned hospitals at night because they might get caught, of course, and their group always carried weapons to dissuade anyone who happened to be there, alive or dead. They explored the subterranean tunnels that went for over 3/4 of a mile beneath the facility. They also explored the dark forest that stretched out into rural Wilsonville at the time behind the buildings. This person says they also experienced a curious kind of swirling darkness that started on the drive in to the facility and continued into the facility and into the forest. And that while looking out at forest from the roof of the center, all of the teeming wildlife and constant motion was so jarring after the silent dark of being inside that they'd keep sitting for who knows how long, feeling watched, because they were waiting for someone to look back. They had that feeling on the back of your neck. Another account from someone named Mr. Deagle tells the story of being a 10 or 11-year-old and hearing the tale of an escaped mental patient from the hospital, apparently from the dangerous ward. This patient was said to have escaped into the Living Enrichment Center and the woods behind and was never caught. Mr. Deagle visited the derelict grounds as an adult, and he told of one visit with his friend when they got separated as they explored. Mr. Deagle heard a giant crash like someone was jumping on the floor above them from a tall height. He rushed to see if it might have been his friend, but the friend quickly came from the hallway opposite of where he had originally been, and neither of them could explain the noise. After a while, they found the tunnel entrance underneath the building. It looked foreboding, it was chilly, and it was dark, but with the dim light of their flashlights, they could pick out some heavy machines or metal equipment. And a trapdoor that was propped open. They saw a ladder under the trapdoor, so the pair went down and walked down a cold, long tunnel, all the while feeling a small wind coming from ahead of them. They could see pipes on the walls, but nothing else, and as they kept going, they started to feel surrounded by the inky blackness. And then they heard the shuffling sounds. Mr. Deagle said the sound was similar to how a person sounds when they walk slowly, perhaps wearing a pair of socks or some heavy pants. The pair walked faster and faster, and then the sounds became more audible through the tunnels until they came to a junction. One way, Mr. Deagle and his friend said, was only more darkness. But behind them, the footsteps kept coming closer. And in the other direction, there was a sliver of light, and what seemed like might have been the source of the wind. They ran towards the direction of the light and came out behind the facility on its side. And they waited outside for the person who'd been behind them, but no one came out. The question as to whether the Living Enrichment Center was a cult is a complex and controversial one. While some people view it as cult-like, others don't. But here's some arguments for both perspectives. Arguments for why they might have been is the fact that they were led by a charismatic leader who claimed to have special knowledge or insights that weren't available to the general public. She was seen as a spiritual leader who had access to wisdom and guidance that others didn't. The second thing is that they used high-pressure sales tactics to recruit members and encourage them to donate large sums of money. They, of course, were encouraged to attend the workshops and the retreats held by the center and to purchase the books and all the other materials that were promoted by the center. The third thing that I found in my research was that the center isolated its members from the outside world, and they discouraged them from having contact with family and friends who weren't part of the group. They were encouraged to spend as much time as possible at the center, and then to avoid contact with people who weren't part of the group. Some arguments for why it might not have been. It was focused on personal and spiritual growth, rather than focused on mainly controlling or manipulating the people who went there. They offered all the workshops and coaching programs that were designed to help people achieve their goals and live fulfilling lives. They weren't required to live on site, and they didn't have to follow strict rules or rituals. So they did encourage its members to participate in workshops and retreats and things, but they were free to come and go. They didn't engage in illegal or harmful activities together, and there was no reports of physical or emotional abuse of members. While the center might have made financial mistakes, there weren't any reports of intentional fraud or deception. So while there's some indications that it might have exhibited some characteristics of a cult, it's important to note that there's no definitive answer whether it was or not. Ultimately, it might depend on your perspective and interpreting the evidence. The building was torn down in 2013 to make way for a housing development. Mary Morrissey's husband was jailed for money laundering for a year on the contingency afterwards that Mary not be charged. They were both ordered to pay some very large fines and were barred from trading securities. Later, she divorced, and Mary is supposed to pay back the $10.7 million, but according to a report on the news station KATU in November of 2007, quote, in her 2005 bankruptcy case, Mary Morrissey was permanently prohibited from holding the position of officer, financial manager, or financial fiduciary for any charitable or religious nonprofit entity. Mary Morrissey said that she's following those rules. Her current church operates as a for-profit business according to the state, unquote, and that at the airing of that special in 2007, only $74,000 had been repaid. So what can we learn from this Living Enrichment Center? One lesson is, of course, the power of community. It was successful in large part because it offered that sense of belonging and support. And another thing is the importance of integrity and transparency in leadership. The controversy surrounding the center was definitely a reminder that you have to be accountable to your followers and operate with honesty and integrity. But you might also take away the idea that buildings carry on the remnants of what happened there and travel carefully. That's all for today's episode of the Same Crime, Different Time podcast. Join us next time as we explore more fascinating topics, both spooky, unsettling, and unexplained. Thanks for listening. As always, stay safe out there. Thanks for listening today. Please review and rate wherever you listen to podcasts. That really helps out the show. And please leave us a voicemail at the Spotify link. Also, you can always feel free to send us an email at scdtmail@gmail.com or www.jennifer-chambers.com.
free audio post-production by alphonic.com.